welcome to episode 211 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. My name's Dave McCrae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight, we're talking what would happen if Halloween 2018 was actually a direct continuation of Halloween 4. No other Halloween movies ever existed, ever. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! Yes. Hope you're all doing well, ladies and gentlemen. The date today is Wednesday, May the 13th, 2026, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And spring is here. It is upon us. And it's a long weekend for us here in Canada this coming weekend. Our birthdays are just around the corner. Tony, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
That epic major intro. I'm coming out firing on all cylinders. Tony, how you doing?
I'm good, man.
I'm good. You're good.
That's good. We are, so this should be an interesting one. Because you're a huge fan of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Right. I think it's your favorite,
right?
Favorite
in the franchise.
It's your favorite in the franchise. Yeah. I think it's the last good one. Well, I mean, listen, that's not entirely true. That's a bit hyperbolic.
I'm not going to disagree.
But I do like Halloween 18, and there's things about some of the other, but in terms of, well, that's just what comes after. But anyway, but we were talking, and we were thinking, what if they never made, like, this is not just about what if Halloween 18 was a direct sequel to Halloween 4. I mean, you can have all the other Halloween films exist and still do that, but that's not what this is about, ladies and gentlemen. This is about
if nothing existed.
Exactly. What if...
That's including Rob Zombie, by the way. We're talking like nothing existed.
Nothing. Literally nothing.
What? Wait, no, Dave, you froze on me.
I did?
But you're still live in the
Oh, you can still hear me? Oh, okay. All right. Well, as long as you can hear me and I'm not frozen to the live audience. But so
you just kind of froze at the wrong moment. And your face was all like looking like from the scene from The Ring when their face is all distorted.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, maybe, but no. I think actually I just freeze like that from time to time. I'll be out in public and I'll be like.
There you go.
And then I'll just, Anyway, so is this thing on? So, so Halloween 4, but we're talking about it from a perspective of that no other film ever existed. So when you see little Jamie Lloyd, and we've talked about this, before, I've talked about it, but when you see little Danielle Harris, little Jamie Lloyd standing at the top of the stairs with those bloody scissors in her hand, having just murdered her foster mother, we don't know that they actually survived until Halloween 5, but Halloween 5 doesn't exist. The Curse of Michael Myers does not exist. H2O does not exist. Resurrection does not exist. Rob Zombie's 1 and 2 do not exist. And of course, neither yet does the David Gordon Green trilogy. So what if the very last film, the very last thing you saw of Michael Myers was Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, 1988, Danielle Harris, little Jamie Lloyd standing at the top of the stairs. Oh my God, epic cliffhanger, unbelievable, what's going to happen? And so what if they waited 30 years, right? And they decided to finally, because legacy sequels are all the rage, right? People are coming back and reprising their roles, right? This is 2018. It's hot. I mean, that's kind of a hot thing. It's still a hot thing now. But it was hot then as well. And they decided, you know what? Because at that time, you don't have the narrative exhaustion of all the other sequels. You don't have the, no, let's pretend this one doesn't work. No, let's pretend this one doesn't exist. Good, now this is a direct sequel to that one, but not this one, and this one and not that one, but this one and not that one, but this one and that one. You don't have any of that.
No, essentially the continuity of the timeline is intact. Nothing's changed.
Exactly. 1, 2, 3 is your, your outlier, but you have
Your
1, 2,
standalone,
right? You have 1, 2, and 4. And that's it. So the narrative exhaustion and the whole timeline diarrhea fiasco does not exist. So this is the mindset that we want our audience to get in here, because we want you guys, if you're watching after the fact, we want you guys to jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts of what you would do in this kind of a scenario. But we also want people who are watching live to jump into the chat room and let us know as well, because we will get to your thoughts. And so nothing exists. And I was, the more I was thinking about this, the more I was thinking, so they were going to do a movie, right? Halloween 2018, they were going to do a movie. And I was trying to figure out a way and see, and you let me know if you agree with this, or maybe you think it should be the theatrical route. But it's 2018, and I totally understand if you go that way. But streaming is big, right? Legacy, nostalgia, 80s nostalgia is really big at that time, especially with Stranger Things and Summer of '84, right. And there's still legacy stuff happening. And I get that there are people like, no, Michael Myers has to be on the big screen. I totally get it. I understand it. But I was thinking about this, story. Like, okay, so Halloween 18. Now, we don't know that's what it's called yet, but of course, we're doing a sequel. We're doing another story in the Halloween universe. No other movies exist. Halloween 18 doesn't even exist yet. And I would be sitting there and I would think to myself, let's do a sequel to Halloween 4, because that wouldn't sound crazy in 2018. In 2018, it would sound bonkers and crazy, because it's like, what are you doing? Like, we're going back. But if no other sequels exist, it doesn't sound crazy, because the narrative exhaustion isn't there. There's only fucking 3 movies in this timeline, right? And so you would think, let's do a legacy sequel to the last Michael Myers movie from 1988. Oh, that's a good idea, sir. Yes. So what are your thoughts? And I'd be thinking, well, let's see if we can bring back Danielle Harris. Let's see if we can bring back Rachel Carruthers. Oh yes, Ellie Cornell herself. Let's see if we can get Jamie Lee Curtis on back. But didn't she die? Did she? Ooh. Maybe maybe she faked her death to, and she put her daughter to hide, whatever the case is. And I was thinking, because I thought to myself how important it is for these characters to come together to build a story around these characters, right? And figure out a way to make it make sense, that they come together, that they meet. There's going to be like there's a whole backstory of what happened and where they are now, and what happened to little Jamie Lloyd now, and what was their relationship, and then what you mean Laurie faked her death? What's that all about? Like all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking
there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers you can do with that. Like, what happened to Jamie after, you could still do the whole, she attacked her stepmother. You don't have to kill her, but how is she living with that, right? And how did that affect her and Rachel's relationship? And now all of a sudden, Tom's alive. Okay.
Exactly. And that's why, this is a long roundabout way for me to say, I came to the conclusion that maybe this would have made a great series. Because you can take more time with all that stuff, right? To pack all of that in. Now, you can tell that story over, like 3 or 4 movies, but to really kind of just that one movie, to get people excited for that one movie. It's not that you can't do it, but I just thought maybe a series. You know what I mean?
Flush it out.
Yeah.
Give it some breath.
Yes, exactly. And then you can discover, like, what happened to Michael Myers. Was he discovered and put away? Did he disappear, never to be seen again? They never found his body.
His last known about was falling down the mine shaft, right? That's what we last know.
Right, correct.
So do you still steal elements of 5? Does he become like a hermit? Living out and recovering from his wounds, which would be more realistic. That was the one thing I never liked about 5 was and I get Michael's supposed to be supernatural and whatnot, but he also is supposed to have a form of human element to him as well too.
Right.
Which gives him that sense of realism, right? That's what separated him from Freddy and Jason and all the other guys. So you're talking about recovery and whatnot. So do you play a lot of that and do you use that, right? Do the wounds sort of what David Gordon Green was doing in Halloween Ends. I think the problem that fans had with that was seeing a vulnerable Michael Myers.
Yes.
I don't think anyone was really, I think that caught everyone off guard. Now that I've had more time to kind of separate, I just like the movie, but I kind of understand his thought process of like, okay, if Michael is supposed to be this supernatural force, but has a sense of human element to him, he's going to be affected by his injuries.
Of course. It's going to
take some time for his injuries, and that will play an impact to how he's able to maneuver around and whatnot. So there's two ways you can go that. Clearly, fans didn't like that initially seeing it. But now, as I've removed myself from Halloween Ends by a few years, I can get it now. Doesn't mean I like the movie in itself, but I get what he was doing with the character.
Right.
You know, which is why I think I would have liked to have actually seen more of Michael like that in Halloween Ends, right? That the injuries have affected him, rather than the whole Corey thing.
Right.
So in this version of Michael, you do the whole, we caught him down, he was unconscious, and we brought him back to Smith Grove.
But you can do both.
Do that. It's a safety net, right? You could do that.
You could, but to your point, you could actually do both, because you can play how 18 did it, where instead of it being a direct sequel to the original, right, it's a direct sequel to 4. And so you can play it like they went down into the mine shaft, which you would. I mean, you wouldn't just shoot somebody, fall in the mine shaft and just leave them there. I mean, realistically, the authorities would go down, they would get the body and all that kind of stuff.
Check it out.
Yeah, exactly. So we would presume that that's what they did, and you could play it like 18 did, which was they found Michael at the bottom of the shaft. Maybe he's barely breathing, he's barely alive. He is human, right, with a supernatural element to him, and he's carted off, and he's taken to the hospital, and
you can even show that, like kind of create like flashback sequence, right?
Yes.
You don't necessarily need a young Danielle Harris. You can create a whole sequence of. You can even have a guy like the guy who played Loomis in Kills. Yeah, you can have him play Loomis again in these flashback sequences of Michael in 88 and them, like everything you're describing, showing that in like what happened. And this is where I think your idea that I like better than doing a trilogy versus to doing a series, because you can flush that out.
Well, yeah, you can. And you can also, you can build a story around the authorities and the doctors and the medical team and staff being incredibly perplexed and astoundunded at his survival. This doesn't make any sense.
Right.
How is he? And you don't explain it, but what you do is you communicate to the audience the mystery and the astonishment from the medical staff, from the authorities. And so the audience, which is us, we revel in that mystery. They're just as perplexed as we would be. So it's not something where they glaze over it and we as an audience is going, oh, come on, how the hell could he survive that? It wasn't even, no, they're just as weirded out. It doesn't make any sense. Like they're looking at this and it's like, something's not right here. Something's weird. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just have to acknowledge it. The mystery and the enigma around something like that. Now, naturally, once he's quote unquote recovered, whatever that means, he would be put back into an institution, right? And so, and he'd be kept there. Well, that's what Halloween 18 did. But instead of, doing it from 1978 to 2018, you do it from 1988 to 2018. And then something
happened. So that element is still there.
Yes, I think that element is still there, where he's there, and whatever the case is, and then there's a situation that arises where obviously he escapes and all that kind of jazz, but it's common knowledge at this point in time that Jamie Lloyd is aware of the capture and put in Smith's Grove or wherever it is. It doesn't have to be there, but some other, mental institution, modern day sort of thing, like you saw in 18. Rachel Carruthers would be aware of it. Everybody's aware of it because this would have been front page news everywhere, right? And so you lean into that. You don't ever show his face. You don't ever talk, about, Michael to any great length, but you don't hide the fact that this would be known. This is not something that, only people in Illinois would know. I mean, this is a big story. And so, and then we reconnect and revisit with Danielle Harris. Well, yeah, I know you get her to come back, and she would have jumped at it. No bones there.
Oh, sure.
And we reconnect with Jamie Lloyd, where she is at that time. Is she married? Does she have kids of her own? What's her story? What's her relationship with Rachel? I did a video on my channel where I talked about that too.
I would almost have Jamie have a very similar, not so much the over 50 million guns like Jamie Laurie Strode was like in that, but I would have both Laurie and Jamie living very similar type lifestyles where they're still estranged. Maybe Laurie's trying to attempt, but Jamie's still screwed up in the head for doing what she did back in 1988. I would protect the sisterly-like relationship that we left off with from Rachel's perspective, right? Rachel doesn't hold the animosity, but Jamie feels the guilt for what she did.
Right.
You don't want to change that, because that's what makes Rachel such a beloved character in the franchise, is that when we're introduced to her in 4, she's kind of this like, I don't want to babysit, I want to go out with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
But by the end, she's doing anything to save Jamie, and that older sister like. Because you remember, like, we're not real sisters and all that.
That's it.
But then by the end, they're almost they're basically sisters, and she's doing everything she can to save Jamie. And really, that she won a lot of the fans over in that character arc. So I would definitely still keep a lot of that who Rachel became by the end of 4. But I would have Laurie and Jamie living very similar, like not hermit, but very reclusive lifestyles. Because of everything that they've gone through, especially Jamie. Like now, because with Jamie, it's not just dealing with the psychological side of attacking her stepmother. It's now finding out my mother fucking faked her death.
Right. Well, and she might not even know that yet. Right. I mean, depending on where we want to.
Eventually, when you get
yes.
there, right?
Yes.
Eventually, when you get there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. No. Exactly. No. Look, you've hit the nail on the head, and I've talked about this ad nauseum on the channel. That's one of the frustrating things about Halloween 5 is that the core of your story was right there, which is the relationship between Rachel and Jamie. And that was set up, right? At the very beginning, we're not really sisters, Jamie, but that doesn't mean I love you any less. And then by the end of the movie, thematically, symbolically, they are real sisters, quote unquote, now, because of everything they went through. Sure. And so now that doesn't mean that they stayed close for 30 years. Maybe there was some trials and tribulations and difficult moments, who knows? But maybe we could also say that her stepmother did survive, right? You know what I mean? Maybe she did survive.
She was just attacked.
She was just attacked, so she did survive. Whether they're alive now or not, who knows? If they were in their 40s then, they'd be in their 70s now. Maybe they've passed. Maybe they're still alive. Maybe the dad has passed. The mom was alive. Who knows, right? But to revisit where these characters are 30 years later is ripe for a television series, because it allows you to reconnect with these beloved characters that you love, to get emotionally reacquainted with them and established before anything hits the fan. And I know that everybody's like, no, Michael Myers has got to be in the first 8 seconds of every episode. It's like, no, no, and he doesn't need to be. If you're bringing back, but Dave, if you're bringing back Danielle Harris and you're bringing back Rachel Carruthers, listen, Halloween fans aren't going to give a frog's fat ass whether Michael's in the first 2 episodes or not. And you will see him. I mean, you'll see the flashback to 4 of what happened and things like that. But you're not going to see his face. You're not going to see, but you're building to it, right? You're creating, you're reconnecting with the universe where we are 30 years later. Look, can you do that in a theatrical film? Of course you can, but doing it in a television series gives you more time, more breathing room to flesh out all those important details.
And if done right, here's another thing that they can do. If done right, which I believe they could do, in some of these flashback sequences of that night, you could literally recreate a lot of moments and showing different perspectives. Because what are we talking about here? We need a young girl with dark black hair and very similar type clown costume, right? You have the mask over her face so you don't really see that it's not Danielle Harris. And of course, with CGI and deepfake and the technology we're at, you can almost essentially recreate Jamie Lloyd in the movie,
right,
if they really want to go down that route. But you know, you could
do
give
that
us a
like they did
camera.
Will Byers at the beginning of season 5. Yeah, you could absolutely do that
or you could show us a perspective like at the end of 4 where it's kind of similar to the Halloween 1 where you're just looking through the mask. But what if you see the perspective of Jamie walking down the hallway and into the bathroom, holding the scissors?
Of course.
So like you can have little moments like that, like things that we never saw in 4 from different perspectives that really aren't that hard to do if you're just creative with your angles and you know.
Correct. Well, fans would lose their minds. You put that in a teaser.
Oh, yeah, to see a different, to see a young Jamie Lloyd walking down the hallway of that house instead of through the eyes of the camera lens like they did. That what is it called? What's the effect of it? I know it's called. There's a name to that.
Point of view.
Well, no, I know it's point of view, but I thought like the little showing the eyes.
Oh, an optical effect.
Like it's looking through. Isn't it an optical effect showing it through the mask of an eyes? Yeah, something like that. So now instead of seeing it like that, you're actually seeing Jamie walk into the bathroom holding the knife.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's and you're absolutely right. You could do that with a bunch of things.
Yeah, could you imagine seeing that as like the trailer? You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it's so cool because to get reacquainted with these characters. And then at some point in not even the first episode, I think that first episode, let's say it's 40 minutes long, right? 8 episodes, 1 season. You know, you'd want that first episode to be about, you know, what happened it's the aftermath, like what actually happened after all this, you know, what happened to Loomis. Loomis would be dead now, of course, you know, but you would, and it doesn't even have to be Haddonfield. I mean, it is unlikely.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Is there anything? I know you're saying no. I'm going to ask it anyways. Is there? I can already hear your response in my head, and I'm laughing. Is there anything redeemable from 5 that could be used in flashback sequences to show Loomis, like any of the hospital stuff, or you know, like forget the Michael stuff, but any of like those sequences that they filmed, or is the idea to really separate it entirely? Because you do have some stuff in there at the beginning of 5 that you're like, could they reuse it?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't
reuse it. I'm sorry, not reuse it. I'm not reuse it. I'm sorry, redo it. Meaning like, I know it would not be Danielle Harris playing, but like is there any moments in 5 that could show maybe some that we would show in this series of a young Jamie in a hospital dealing with that, you know, the aftermath immediately?
Yeah,
that's what I meant. I think I said it wrong initially. I don't mean reuse reuse the actual from 5, but essentially reshoot or do stuff some scenes from 5 to put into this series.
Well, I wouldn't,
especially those hospital scenes early on. Not everything else.
No. I know. Yeah. No. I wouldn't. There's nothing in Halloween 5 that I would emulate or copy because it's unnecessary. I think it is logical that Jamie would be put in some sort of hospital for a while, but you just reshoot that and
you think we should show that.
Well, yeah, sure, but that wouldn't have anything to do with 5. I mean, that wouldn't, like, there's nothing in, like, I wouldn't make her a mute. I wouldn't make Loomis crazy. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, you would just show her in the hospital, sure. But it would be glimpses, moments. I mean, maybe it's the epilogue, the prologue, or it could be the epilogue of the first episode. But that first episode, maybe even the first couple episodes, getting reacquainted with the characters. Maybe the first episode is all about Jamie Lloyd, right? And where she is, what she's been through, who she is now, right? And she would likely be, you know, she might not even live in Haddonfield, right? I mean, maybe she lives in the same state. Maybe she doesn't. It's not uncommon for people to move away. She could still live there. Yeah. But, you know, who is she now, and how has she dealt with the residual effects and the aftermath of that? Then episode 2 might be about Rachel. You know, you get reacquainted with Rachel. Where is she now? What's their relationship like? You know, and then something happens where you take what Halloween 18 did. There's going to be a patient transfer, and they're doing it. It's classic, you know, but why not? There's going to be a patient transfer. They're transferring Michael Myers. You know, you take what 18 did, which is Michael Myers is alive. He was reinstitutionalized. You take that. It's just, like I said, instead of it 40 years later, it's 30 years later. The only difference is he was captured at the end of 4 instead of the end of the first movie, which I think actually works better.
And the daughter thing, instead of Karen, it's Jamie as the daughter.
Correct.
And essentially the dynamic of the relationship is very similar. Karen did not really, I mean, she didn't shut her mom out, but she wasn't really open to the idea of, you know, guns blazing mom. You know what I mean? She just really wanted to keep her relationship with her daughter kind of bay, you know, keep it in check. So you would still have a lot of those similar elements of what they did with Judy Greer's character in 18 and with Laurie Strode. And then of course, and you can even have a granddaughter as well. To think maybe Jamie, you know.
Well, that's what I just said. Well, no, but that's what I just said.
So there's a lot. Yes, there is a lot of elements of 18 that you could do. There's just some things that obviously would be changed, and obviously the big one being that it's not Karen, it's Jamie.
Oh, I think it is more than likely that Jamie Lloyd would be married with children, and her children might be 14 and 13 or something like that, or because it's 2018, like that, right? So this is 30 years later. So she would be, you know, if she was 7 and 19, I know Danielle Harris was older, but if the character was 7, you know, she'd be 37, right? In 1980, you know, 2018. So maybe she's got, you know, a couple of young preteens or early teenagers, and she's married. And I think that is absolutely possible. What I think also is important too, is she has no idea her mother's alive, and she has no idea, and neither does
we. Don't reveal that yet.
No, I don't think they know. I don't think Rachel knows. I don't think Jamie knows. I think Laurie, you know, is still whatever she's doing. I think you can take a similar Laurie from 2018, similar, right? You know, in the sense that she's, you know, a bit of a hermit. She doesn't, you know, she's changed her name. She's not Laurie Strode. She's somebody else, Janet, you know, Lee. You know, she's somebody else. And she has maybe, you know, she's watched from a distance her daughter, perhaps. You know, she's kept tabs on what happened.
She goes by the name of Linda Annie.
Linda Annie, there you go. Or Bob. Hey,
remembrance of her friends.
That's it. But I think
but now the question is like, how do you bring them together? Like, how do you get?
Well, I think what it is that Michael Myers escapes, right? It's during the patient transfer, this whole hoopla around Myers escaping and suddenly being out there. I think you can take a similar approach to Laurie Strode in 18, where she is likely, I don't think she's necessarily somebody that is still, I think she's lived a normal, I think she's more like the Laurie Strode at the beginning of Halloween Ends. Because there's been this kind of thing, and I think you agree, that the Laurie Strode that we got at the beginning of Halloween Ends feels more like how she should have been all through 18. And how she was in 18 should have been where she ended up at the end of Halloween Ends, which is kind of where she is.
They kind of did that backwards.
They kind of did it backwards. So I would like to see a Laurie Strode that is kind of like where she was at the beginning of Ends, right? Mostly through Ends, is where she is in this story when we are first reintroduced to her. And we figure out why she did what she did, why her death was faked, to protect her daughter, Michael, this, that, the other, you know, whatever the case is. You build a narrative around that dynamic, that sort of discovering that your mother's alive and watching that dynamic play out, you know, between the two characters. How is the character of Jamie going to handle that? I mean, it's unlikely going to be, oh, cool, I understand, Mom. I mean, there's going to be some, what the fuck?
You know, it'd be really good, and would tie Laurie's character to the events of what happened in 88, is if Laurie, in some flashback sequences, you do have a young Laurie maybe showing up to the hospital and talking to Loomis and fearing that this may have happened. And maybe Loomis encouraging her to go talk to her daughter, and maybe she gets close to the room but turns away.
Yes. Oh, you
know, so now you've tied her, at least tied her into the events, because she's aware. Her whole point of going into hiding was to protect her daughter, and now she can't even protect her daughter.
Right, correct. And I think, you know, because she knew that if, you know, Michael was always after her, and, you know, you could say, you know, obviously at the end of Halloween 2, there was an explosion. You know, there may be a situation here where you have to do the, you maybe Michael. So let me backtrack for a second. So you have, I agree with what you've said, by the way. I really like that. And it makes interesting character. It's an interesting character driven narrative for these two characters to reconnect. I like the idea that Laurie has really always been kind of watching from afar, but maybe also there's two reasons why she doesn't make herself known and aware. Number one, maybe legally she can't. You know what I mean? There could be something where she's not legally supposed to, it would sort of, obviously, she knows it would put her daughter in danger. As long as her daughter was with her, Michael Myers is the one going after her. Her daughter's in danger. That's why there's the separation. The question then becomes at the end of Halloween 2, which is canon in this series, and Michael is blown up. We know at the beginning of Halloween 4, he survived the explosion and he was in the mental institution. And maybe for 10 years, Laurie Strode kept her distance. So in that time that kept
her distance, but a watchful eye.
Yes, but more kept her distance because Michael was institutionalized in a coma. Right. And so there wasn't really, he's in a coma, he's there. Yeah. It didn't feel really a threat. And so as Jamie was growing
with her post-traumatic stuff from the events of 1 and 2.
Right. And Laurie may not even live in Illinois. She's moved away. And, and so, as Jamie is
a teacher at a private school.
No,
with a son.
No. Josh Hartnett. No.
Sorry, Josh. Sorry, Josh.
Michael Myers is dead, Mom. Where's my train of thought? So as Jamie Lloyd was being, I can't remember if it says how long she's been with the Lloyds. I don't know if it ever says in 4
months, 7 months or 11 months.
Is that what it says?
11 months.
7 months.
I know it's something months. I know it's either she says it's been 11 months on the couch or it's 7 months on the couch.
Chat room.
It's one of those. It's someone in the chat room is going to know the line. I know that.
Someone in the chat. Okay, because this is going to dictate how we sort of structure this. How long has Jamie Lloyd been with
the Carruthers?
With the Carruthers, and
11 or 7 months. It's one.
Yeah, she's 7 years old. I know that, but I'm just curious because
she's like, it's been 11 months. I feel like that's fine. She says.
Yeah, you could be right. We'll see what the chat room says here.
How far behind are we?
Brandon says Laurie abandoned Jamie and faked her death because she saw signs of telepathic link between Jamie and Michael. She believes that link was made worse by her presence, so she leaves. Oh God. 11 months, says Brandon. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, so there you go. There's your timeline.
So there must be something. So Jamie was like 6 years old. So there has to be a reason at that moment that she decides to fake her death. Now, Michael's incarcerated in, whatever the case is. So now we have to figure out why would Laurie Lloyd, why would she choose that moment in 1987, 86, 87 to fake her death, some sort of witness protection, perhaps, to protect her daughter. Her daughter's adopted by the Carruthers.
You could go down the
it wouldn't be. No, the Lloyd. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
You could go down the alcoholic type problem that it was getting too out of hand, and that Jimmy wasn't really there for Laurie.
Right.
Yes, he's the dad, but he wasn't really there, which also play a factor in bringing his character back into this series as well too.
Yeah.
That he may have made some mistakes along the way in his marriage with Laurie, and and not really being there, which and being more supportive for how Laurie was dealing with the psychological part of what she went through that night, which at that point you're only talking, it had been, because it would have been what, 9 years removed? No, 8 years removed from the events.
Yeah,
from
8 or 9
when
years.
she faked her death. So it's that long. So it's not a long time since, so you're still talking, she was 17 in the first one, so she's only 26 years old. She's still a very young woman as far as age-wise. And maybe she just felt like she, between maybe she was dealing with some alcohol problems, and she felt like the best thing was for her is to just be out and give Jamie a proper home. And because of the relationship Laurie has with Rachel, that Laurie her babysitter, that maybe, even though we only see Laurie babysit Tommy, you can even flush that out more in a series of the relationship Laurie had with the Carruthers,
right?
And why it was so, why she picked them. Because we know the line in 4 where Rachel says, your mother used to babysit me. Oh, you were lucky, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe there was a very specific reason that, yes, okay, we don't see the character in the original Halloween, but you can flush that out and talk about that. And then that's the reason why Laurie chose the Carruthers to essentially get her life in order. And I mean, but then again, you got to explain like the newspaper clipping. I'm just thinking of that now in 4 because you see the newspaper clipping of her death. Like, so why go to that extreme?
Yeah,
maybe she just never got over the fear of the fact that she felt Michael was coming back for her.
It could be that. I mean,
and that she just wasn't going to give Jamie a normal life, and the only way she could give Jamie a normal life is to just give her over to the Carruthers.
You could justify that by, and yeah, you totally could.
And everyone else is like, he's in the hospital. What are you talking about? But she's not getting over it.
Right. And the thing is that today it's nearly, you watch those old like Dateline episodes or those old 60-minute episodes or the news and I mean, many years ago, and this is of course the late 80s, but it was much easier to disappear then. It was much easier to, I'm not saying it's easy, but it was easier to fake your death, disappear. If you didn't want to ever be found or seen again, you could do it. Now, I mean, maybe you had some help, maybe you didn't. You change your name, you cut your hair, you do all kinds of stuff. You could do it if you really wanted to. Today,
you could literally in the 80s and the 90s, you could literally just show up in a town and just like say I'm so-and-so and people would believe you.
Yeah. Today, it's next to impossible because of the digital footprints. Right. So it's next to impossible to do. So so we'll say this because that part of the backstory still needs to be fleshed out so it feels properly motivated and it's strong. But I think we're on the right track with that kind of thing. And people can jump into the comments, below in the chat room and let us know your thoughts to piggyback off that.
The two go hand in hand, though. I think the fact that Laurie is not, and maybe that's what drove Jimmy away, is the fact that Laurie was not moving past that night. And then through her abuse of alcohol, it just was consuming her.
I think that's true.
And she was not able to give Jamie the better life that young Jamie deserved.
I think she was paranoid. And maybe she was.
So then rather than just like, where did my mom and dad go? You fake a story. And back then you could create a fake newspaper clipping.
Well, I think,
back then.
It could be that there was a fake accident. Like there actually was.
Or that too.
A situation, or she disappeared, or she was presumed dead, or, whatever the case is, you'd have to go back and it was a car wreck or a plane crash. What was the actual?
Car accident.
It was a car accident.
Car accident.
Okay. So, you can, again, that part of it, we will acknowledge that part of it. I mean, we're not going to figure it all out here tonight. That part of it needs some fleshing out and working and fine tuning and noodling. That's what you do when you write, a story, you noodle it and flesh it out and fine tune it and all that kind of stuff. So that part needs a little bit of fine tuning, but I like the track that we're on because I like the idea of it became all consuming, the alcohol. Maybe she was into drugs. Maybe she was smoking a lot of weed. And when you smoke, listen, I don't smoke weed. I never have, but I do know, because I know people that this has happened to, when you smoke a lot of weed, a lot of the times you can become incredibly paranoid. It can affect different people in different ways, but who knows what else she was on.
Who add in the alcohol.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And so there could be a substance abuse issue with her. And to your point, Jimmy left or whatever the case is, or maybe he had some issues too, and then he couldn't. It was a toxic environment. It was a toxic environment.
And especially at that time, the 80s, like you're talking about, marijuana was viewed a little bit different than it is today. It was kind of like marijuana today. I mean, it's essentially like smoking a cigarette. It's not like you smoke marijuana, but back in the 80s, that was very like,
of course,
no, like you smoke marijuana,
of course, yes. And so again, fleshing out, noodling it. Maybe some things will stay, some things will throw out and, reintroduce something else. But
right. Flesh out ideas. Right.
That's what you do. But there's something that's happened there that has allowed Jamie to be adopted and to presume, and everybody thinks that Laurie and Jimmy have been killed. Okay. Years later in this series, we find out that that's not necessarily the case, and that Laurie, this whole time, or for a long time, has been watching from afar. Maybe she got a life where she got she was put into a witness protection program, perhaps. She was put into some sort of program, because she was the girl that, she's the Michael Myers girl or whatever the case is, or who knows. But she was able.
Again, at that time, like you talked about, there were people knew people, someone knows someone where they could get you fake IDs and fake social security and all this stuff. So maybe she just decided to she found someone who could do this for her. She got all this fake information, and it would make, like, the thing that I like about her watching Jamie from afar is that it's still it's what you would expect from Laurie, right?
Yeah.
You would expect Laurie to still, at the end of the day, be pulled to do the responsible thing, because that's just how her character is.
Yeah.
As much as her character wants to go this way, ultimately she's being pulled to do the responsible thing, and the responsible thing is, she needs to be near her daughter.
Yeah.
She needs to make sure her daughter, rather than totally just being like, I'm going to be over here and I'm never going to see her again. No, she's watching her from afar. Right.
And again, it's a show. And so, there's certain things that can be properly motivated and justified. Not everything has to feel, 100% exact. You know what I mean? It's as they often say, right? Although this would be a series, it's a fucking movie. It's a movie, as long as, like, okay, yeah, no, I buy that. But it has to feel real. It has to feel legit. There's two things I just want to quickly address. Bobby Hall says, I think it would be weird for Laurie to protect her daughter by allowing her to stay in Haddonfield. It would make more sense for Jamie to be adopted by someone who lives far away. That's if Laurie was in charge of all that and setting up the adoption. It could be a situation where,
and again, what I said about the Carruthers and why I think you can flesh out in a series Laurie's reasoning for picking the Carruthers, and you can flesh that out. Right, exactly.
Maybe there's maybe the Carruthers, we find out that, oh my God, they knew the Strodes years ago. Like, her father used to. They're godparents. Her father worked with Mr. Strode at Strode, Realty years ago. You can flesh out all that stuff. You can, I agree. Like, in principle, at face value, Bobby, I agree. But I think I think you can find reasons where it makes sense. And Shane O'Graff says it should be a full circle moment.
The Carruthers were with the Strodes on the night of the first Halloween attack.
Could be
at the party. Remember?
At the party. Yep. It could be that.
It could have been at the party that night.
It could be that. Shane O'Graff says it should be a full circle moment for Jamie and Laurie if you are sticking to Laurie being Michael's sister. Well, remember, we have to stick to Laurie being Michael's sister because this is a direct sequel to Halloween 4. So we don't have an option. Yep. It's not a different version of 18 specifically where 4, 5, and 6 don't exist. This is a direct sequel to 4, not a direct sequel to Halloween 1 only. And so, no, they are sister.
everything
are
that happened
related.
in 2 is still in continuity.
That's right. And everything happened in 4. Whereas in 18, 4, 5, and 6 don't exist. But I agree. So the series is again, that takes noodling, fleshing that out, but presumably we would flesh that out and you would figure that out. And the story becomes all about, where is Rachel now? Where is Jamie now? What is their relationship like? Michael is put away, and it's the discovery of, oh my God, Laurie Strode is alive. And where has she been and the why, and seeing that dynamic and building, because that relationship's going to be fractured at first, right? There's an understanding of maybe why Laurie, she has to, Jamie has to come to terms of why Laurie did what she did, and maybe there's something going on in her own life that allows Jamie to make that understanding, or eventually that connection and understanding of why Laurie, made the decision that she did. You could absolutely play it as an area of contention, because maybe you play it into the fact that Jamie doesn't buy it either. Maybe Jamie's sitting there going, why the fuck would you do that? Why would you, do you know what I mean? And Laurie has to justify that to her. I was 26 years old. I had a young child, and I was going through this, I was going through that, and I was scared for my life, and I was paranoid, I was doing all this kind of stuff. And that's part of the contention between the, characters, and seeing that dynamic. And of course, all under the surface, Michael Myers is getting prepared to return, right? You know what I mean?
And this is where Jamie's father can come into the equation of, he got so pissed off at Laurie that he nearly killed them. That you can play into the whole car accident thing. Right. It was a triggering point for him. Was it right for him to up and leave? Of course not. But I would do it to where Jamie discovers that her dad is alive, and now she starts to wonder if her mother's alive. And so she goes and finds her father. She sees her dad first, trying to figure out what the fuck happened.
I like that.
And so rather, what it does is it also builds that tension and that buildup of the fans getting ready to see Laurie and Jamie connect on screen.
Yes.
So instead of her seeing mom first, she sees the dad first, and realizing my parents are actually alive. And now she wants to know where her mother is.
You could play a cliffhanger at the end of an episode where you think she's about to reunite with her mother, and the door swings open and it's her father.
Lance Armstrong.
Yes.
It's not Lance Armstrong. What's his name?
No. Lance Guest.
Lance Guest.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You get Lance Guest back, and he opens the door.
100%. But imagine that, right? Imagine one of the episodes could be building towards, oh my God, I think my mom's alive, blah, 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 blah. But then the door opens and it's her father. And now it's right. What the fuck? And listen, maybe Jimmy has more to do with it. Maybe he's the orchestrator of it, right? He was a paramedic. Maybe he went on to become a cop. Right? Who knows? Maybe there's more. Again, there's a lot of stuff that you can noodle and figure out in that 10 years or in that 9 years, right? What was going on between, Jimmy and Laurie and Jamie and maybe Jimmy, it's not all Laurie orchestrating this whole thing, but she went along with it for whatever big thing we discover was happening at that time. It leads one to believe that it's a lot bigger than you think. There's a lot more. Again, it has to be properly motivated. You don't want Halloween fans to go, oh, come on. But there's an opportunity to make it a bit bigger, to world build a bit and go, oh, fuck. Not to the point where it's, ridiculous, but.
Right. And I think given the time, right, we're talking the 80s, it was non-common for a parent to give their child up for an adoption if they felt like that child could get a better life somewhere else. That was a very common thing to do.
I absolutely
I'm not saying
agree.
It's not common today, but it was very common to do back then. And playing that, the reason they did, it was to give Jamie a better life. And then again, why they picked the Carruthers, I think you can flesh that out more, because again, they could have been at the same party as the Strode's night of original Halloween. They could have been like best friends with the Strodes, like very close. We don't know that. We don't know what the dynamic of the family relationship with. We just get the one throwaway line from Rachel in 4 where she said she used to get babysit. But we don't know. We don't know what that entails. Just because Laurie was babysitting Tommy that night, Rachel could have been somewhere else.
Correct.
She could have been trick or treating, or she could have been, you know, with a family. Like who knows?
100%.
Like, there's so much you can do with the Strode family and the Carruthers family, and why they were chosen to take Jamie as an adopted child.
Exactly. And like already
more me to that story, because now Jamie starts to realize, and I did this to my stepmom, you know, realizing, like, finding out the real backstory of the Carruthers family with the Strode family and how that relationship really goes. And then now Jamie's feeling more remorse for even what she did that night 30 years ago.
Yeah. No, there's lots of stuff that you can figure out, and lots of different directions, and a combination of many things that you can add to it. But even in just the, you know, almost hour we've been talking here, there's a lot of stuff, you know, that we're putting on the table. Yeah, I know. A lot of stuff we're putting on the table for a potential series that would really be, you know, again, yes, you have to have your Michael Myers, you have to have your, of course, and you will get that, but it's important that if you were doing a direct sequel to Halloween 4, you want to give the audience these character-driven emotional moments and reconnecting with these characters to find out where everybody is. And then, you know, in episode 5 is when he escapes, or, you know, whatever the case is.
I would say the first 4, if you're going to do an 8 or 10, we'll say 10. We'll
say
go
10.
in even 10 episodes.
Okay.
I would say the first 5 episodes is everything is involving the backstory and lead up.
Yes.
And then from 5 on, and that's not to say Michael's not in any of this. He is. But from episode 5 on, it's Halloween night. So you're getting 5 episodes taking place on Halloween night.
Right. You're getting
a good payoff.
I think it is. And that means you're getting 5 hours, essentially.
Of
5
Halloween
hours.
night.
That's right. And you know, and it's all about,
it's a good payoff.
I think it is. And because you don't know if you're going to be guaranteed a season 2, what you do is you construct an ending where you can leave it as is. But if it is really successful and really popular, there is an avenue and a door, not an obvious door. I don't mean a Halloween Resurrection cliffhanger. That's not what I mean. But I mean that there is a door that you could go on, but ending it there still makes sense. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything if we don't necessarily. And what the story is all about, again, is, you know, Rachel and Jamie coming together with Laurie Strode and maybe Jimmy. And, you know, maybe Rachel's mom is still alive. I don't know. Maybe you can get the same actress. It wouldn't matter anyway. But the point I'm making is that you build to, you nurture that dynamic and the relationship. In the beginning, it's problematic. It's a bit toxic, and they go on a journey of discovery and building a bond. So that bond, the 3 of them can take down Michael Myers. So that bond, especially the bond between mother and daughter, they tried to do that a bit in Halloween 18 with Karen and Jamie, but of course it's
they did, a little bit.
Yeah, you know, yeah, they did a little bit, but it was, you know, but I think with a series, especially with a legacy character like Jamie Lloyd, played by Danielle Harris, coming back. It's not another actress playing her, but it's Danielle Harris. You know, that build up is important. That bond, it's almost serendipitous, right? So it's like it's fate, you know, and they talk about fate as one of the themes in the original Halloween from 1978. And it's almost like, you know, the universe knew that Michael was going to escape, right? And he was going to come back and searching for, you know, Jamie.
Bring them back together.
Right. And fate brings them back together. And that bond between them is the bond that ultimately is able to take down Michael. That doesn't mean you don't.
What's crazy?
Yeah.
If they heard us talk about this, Jamie Lee Curtis, I wouldn't be shocked to be like, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Danielle Harris would be all over it.
Oh, Danielle Harris would be all over it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. That sounds fantastic. But I would
now,
look
in the hypothetical situation, would you want them to do that series direct sequel to 4, like everything we talked about tonight?
Sorry, say that again.
Now, like, I'm just asking now, present day, everything is as is. Now, given that our ideas are pretty solid ideas for a good series, would you want them to do a direct sequel to 4 with everything we just talked about?
Listen, the fan in me says I would love to see something like that.
I love that listen at the beginning.
The fan in me says I would love to see something like that. The realist in me says there's no way in hell they would ever do something like that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. Certainly not theatrically. Television series, I don't look. I think no.
Well, it depends.
I don't
Like, if
think
Crystal Lake is a slam dunk home run, you don't think so? I mean, because you know how trends go. If one does well, the others tend to follow suit.
But Crystal Lake is also like a retelling, right? You know, a reboot, a prequel of the. It's not like a direct sequel to 6, you know, or something like that, right? So, I don't think. As much as people would love a Halloween 4 Part 2, which is for all intents and purposes what this is, I don't think you're actually ever going to get it. And there's a variety of, business, reasons why too. But I think
you couldn't do it with just Danielle Harris. You would have to do it with. You need that anchor of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Of course, and you need to bring back Rachel. Like it's all or nothing.
You need someone,
yeah, and that's why we're discussing it in imagine if Halloween 18, I know we're talking about it from a television perspective, but imagine if Halloween 18 had been this instead. And again, there's no, like I said at the beginning, if you're just tuning in, none of the other Halloween films exist. There's no 5, no 6, no H2O, no Resurrection, no Rob Zombies films. And so there is no narrative exhaustion. There's only 3 films in this thing. There's only 3 Michael Myers films. There's literally only 3 Michael Myers films to exist is what we're talking about. And now imagine doing that. I mean, it would feel fresher. It would feel more intriguing. I'm not saying it would be the right business move. Who knows? It might be like pulling teeth to get people to do it. But it's interesting. And Jamie Lee Curtis is the anchor. Because no disrespect to Danielle Harris, but of course, Jamie Lee Curtis is the name. So she would have to be on board for it for anybody like a Blumhouse or a Netflix or a
and then
Prime.
The news comes out, and then I'm first thing I'm doing is going to Dave's channel. Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that would be it. I mean, but with her name attached, then people are like, oh, this is interesting. And that might have been very interesting to do because, again, you give fans a reunion between, Danielle or Jamie Lloyd and Laurie Strode and played by the original characters. You get Rachel in there as well. I don't think you need a Dr. Loomis's son or a Dr. Loomis's daughter who's also, you don't need that. You can have like a Sartain type of character that's kind of like Loomis-esque at the hospital and things like that, but you don't need anybody related to Loomis. But I think that to me is interesting, because it's like, wow, like, because it's not just a slasher series, it's character driven. There's more meat on the bone, very much like what I think you're going to get with Crystal Lake. With Crystal Lake, which is coming out this fall, I think that's what you're going to get. You're going to get something like what we've been talking about. More character driven, more story, getting more emotionally connected to the character so that when shit does hit the fan, you care. It's interesting. It's, it's not removing the DNA of Friday the 13th. Like we wouldn't be removing the DNA of Halloween. All the Halloween shit would be there. The theme, the shape stocks, the mask would look exactly like it did in Halloween 18. Like imagine that, right? Like, and you get Carpenter do imagine the same music in Halloween 18, but in this series. Imagine the same mask, maybe even James Jude Courtney, right? But in this series, right? Maybe you have Sartain.
He's got the same physique. He's got the same physique as George P. Wilbur. He was they're both big men.
Yeah, big guys. Right, exactly. 100%. And so you take a lot of what Halloween 18 did right, the mask, the music, the atmosphere, but instead of a, 105-minute film, whatever it is, you take it and you make it a series about the return of Rachel Carruthers, Jamie Lloyd, and how they deal with knowing, especially how Jamie Lloyd deals with knowing that her mother, for whatever reason, again, we're fleshing that out. You guys can jump into the comment section and let us know your ideas of how all that went down and the why. The why did it go down? Because realizing your mother gave you up for adoption and faking her death, that's great, like story, deep, philosophical, existential, hardcore. She might have real reasons and it might be really hard to get around it and it might be traumatic and there's things you got to deal with. And so watching them fight through that, watching that relationship, fight through that and trying to reconnect and understand each other is great. And you need a series to do that. Or you need like 8 movies to do that, you don't actually do, but I think it would be great for a series. And then, like I said, then what actually takes down Michael is the bond that is created, the understanding. They come together, they both take down Michael. They need to be that it's
and you can do it the way they do it. I mean, maybe minus the whole throwing his body into a wood chipper or whatever it was. Not a wood chipper, but
I know what you mean. A meat grinder or whatever it was. Meat grinder or wood chipper or whatever.
It was where they put the automobile parts in to grind them up. Yeah. I would definitely do kind of some of the similar things of what they did with the ending of Halloween Ends, with how Laurie gets Michael. And I would do it the same way. Laurie and Jamie both get Michael.
Yeah. And then you could tease a second season with the Corey Cunningham story. But you could. I mean, if you built it from the ground up, you could tell a different you could tell a different story built in the same universe, right? Sure. It's and you could tell that story. A new evil is rising. You totally could do that. You could bring back Jamie Lloyd if you wanted. You could bring back. I don't know. Who knows? But I
still want my what was the guy's name that the grave, when Loomis and the grave guy were walking?
Oh, Charlie Bowles.
I want my Charlie Bowles story.
Charlie Bowles story.
That's what I'm waiting for a Charlie Bowles story.
He kissed his wife and his 2 children goodbye, and then he proceeded to, where are we?
What did he proceed to do?
What did he proceed to do?
I want to know.
I want to know.
He proceeded to.
Yeah, no, look, there's lots of things you could do, but I
think there's a lot of truth to also what I said a few moments ago. Depending on how successful Crystal Lake is, and of course we've got this Texas Chainsaw Massacre series on the horizon, too. If these turn out to be home runs and fans like it. Now, I already kind of know the Crystal Lake series is probably going to be divided because you're going to have fans like you and me who are okay with the whole Mrs. Voorhees backstory, because you and I have even done an episode on that.
We were the first to talk about it. We talked about that in like 2019.
So, so the fact that they're doing a series on it, I'm on board. And then, of course, you're going to have the other half of the fan base that, they want to see the hockey mask. They want to see Jason, and I get it.
Yeah.
But I think is like you can also build to that. You know what I mean? So which gives you more to work with. Where like I said, you could do the first 3 seasons are focused in on Pamela Voorhees, and then you get the next 3 seasons are focused on Jason.
Mm-hmm.
You got 6 years, of shows coming your ways. That's the way I would look at it, rather than just jumping out and coming out with Jason right from the jump with the hockey mask. And you're essentially you're going to burn it out really quick. Where you Pam Voorhees, and if everything goes well, which you want it to, I don't want it to turn into like a Bates Motel thing. I wasn't a big fan of Bates Motel. Were you?
I never saw it, but
I don't say that in a negative way. I just couldn't get into it. I tried. It didn't land with me. I couldn't find the hook in that for me to continue to keep watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Crystal Lake gives me that. It gives me the hook, and I'm into it. And then, like I said, and if it goes well, you're going to get probably 3 seasons. And then from there, you're all right. You're done with Pam. All right, let's move on to Jason.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think with the idea that we're talking about here, with Halloween, sequel to Halloween 4, it feels like a one season kind of thing for me. Like, it doesn't feel like a story that, goes on and on and on. I mean, it feels like you could tell this story over the course of one season. And maybe that's all you need.
Crystal Lake?
No. I'm talking about our idea, Halloween.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a one season kind of thing, but maybe that's what Halloween becomes. I mean, maybe, it kind of, and then, like I said, the rest, you do a season 2, but it's a different story set in the universe. It's the Charlie Bowles story. It's the Corey Cunningham story. It's the whatever. And it's all set within the same universe.
Season of the Witch.
Yeah, Season of the Witch, exactly. There's lots you could do, but a sequel to Halloween 18, what if Halloween 18 was actually a sequel to Halloween 4? I think would have been very interesting in 2018. Again, you have to remember that none of the other Halloween films exist. So there is you have no memory of H2O. You have no memory of Rob Zombie's films or Resurrection or Halloween 6 or Halloween 5. You have no memory of those movies because they literally do not exist. And so because of that, I think the probability goes up that, in 2018, not necessarily a series, but in 2018, it probably, if that was the case and Halloween 4 really was the last Halloween movie with Michael Myers, the probability goes up then that you probably would have gotten a sequel to Halloween 4 in 2018, whether that's a movie or a series, but why not at that point, right? Like, why wouldn't you? Because that's the last movie. And there's no narrative exhaustion. You haven't beaten it into a pulp.
So it's also possible that you could have gotten it in 2008, right? They could have done it then as well too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes. You mean
again, a 2000 instead of it could be 20 years after the events.
Could be.
So the fact that you eliminate 5, 6, 8, Resurrection, Rob Zombie movies, if you're doing a direct sequel to 4, you probably could have gotten the band back together, especially maybe in that early 2000s run, with Danielle Harris was in her, how old were we in 2008? We were like 30s or turning 30s
in 2008. We were 29.
We were 29. And Harris is 2 years older than us, so she would have been in her early 30s. Ellie Cornell would have been somewhere in her early 40s. Curtis would have been a lot younger. So there is that factor. Bo Starr, who just died, right? He just passed away. I saw that. Within the last week. He would have been alive, so you would have had him, that you could have brought into the equation as well too. Obviously, Don Pleasant. Now you lose the whole. Could you get a guy to play Dr. Loomis? Sure. I mean, because of course you're talking about 2008 technology versus the 2018 technology, and technology is a lot different. So, but the point is that they could have, and for sure in 2008, if they did it in 2008, it would have been a movie because they weren't doing series,
correct.
Then, so
yeah,
it would have been very interesting to see had they stopped at 4. What they would have done. Certainly, I've always said this. If there was no 5 and 6 and everything just ended at 4, I really truly believe Jamie Lee Curtis would have been more open to the idea of including 4 into H2O's story. I really do, because there's really nothing bad that you can say about that movie. I mean, other than like the aesthetics, like the masks, and whatnot. I get that, but it would have been I've always said it would have been a very, very different trajectory for this franchise if 5 and 6 just never existed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And because, it's hard to wrap your mind around it because they exist and they're so part of, if you're a horror fan, especially if you're a Halloween fan, they're so embedded into your mind and into your brain and into your being and into your fandom that it's difficult to imagine a world without them, even the bad movies. Them, right. But if you do and you can, you realize, wow, if those movies really didn't exist and 4 was the last one, there's a very good chance they could have done a sequel to 4 in 2018. because why wouldn't you? Right? I mean, I don't see why not, right? I mean, if you're continuing the story.
30 years, right?
Right, exactly. It doesn't make any. The reason why they didn't just go back to 4 is because there's a 5 and there's a 6 and there's an H2O and there's a resurrection and there's
connect to that.
Right, and this, it's all this blah. But if there was just 4 and that was it, that's a pretty, because 4 has, is a fan favorite. It's a fan favorite. Even today, it's a fan favorite. And so, but I think that's the direction. I think again, it needs some noodling and working out and smoothing out. But that backstory with Laurie and Jimmy and the why and what happened and the adoption and all that kind of stuff, obviously that needs some smoothing out. But the realization that she's alive and to see the realization on Danielle Harris's face as Jamie Lloyd, oh my God. And she's a mother now too. Again, maybe she's got kids or whatever the case is, which means that Laurie Strode's a grandmother, and Jimmy's a grandfather. And then you get Rachel in there who's probably married with her own kids or something. I don't know. But it's all about watching this dynamic play out while Michael Myers.
Do we let Brady live? Do we bring him back from the dead?
No, Brady's dead. No, everybody who died in 4. No, everybody who died in 4 is dead. Is dead. Yes, we're not doing the Scream thing where we're bringing everybody back. But I think that would be so interesting. That's interesting to me. Because it plays on the nostalgia, it plays on the emotional hook for Halloween fans. And it wouldn't feel like the Hail Mary long bomb pass it would today, because it really was the last Halloween movie. So it makes logical sense that that's what you would do a sequel to. Right? You know what I mean? Now it feels really messy and weird and strange to just do a direct sequel to some random in the middle of the franchise sequel. Usually, not that they haven't done that. I mean, they've done sequels to the first movie only, but I just mean it feels more messier now. It doesn't feel like that's the right business choice to do today. But in 2018, that's literally the last one. So why wouldn't you do a sequel to the last one? Right? That makes sense. And the last one just so happens to be Halloween 4. And so I think, although not certain, not definite, the probability, as I said, does go up that they may have actually done that. And that would have been really fascinating to see that dynamic play out. I don't know what they would have done in terms of the story, but Tony and I think it should have been the story that we're talking about here. And then you build that relationship. And of course, it's Michael's in it. Like Tony said, right? He's in it. You flash back to the sanitarium where the medical doctor's trying to figure out who is this guy? What's going on? You never see his face. Maybe you just see his arm or his hand.
In the first 5 episode build-up, like he's there. Like you see, like there's no waiting. Like,
his presence is felt.
There.
Yes.
You're right. You know he's there. You know he's coming. What I said was, as far as to give the fans a really good payoff, you make the second half of the season, those 5 episodes, all take place on Halloween night.
That's right.
Giving you 5 hours of Halloween night.
That's right. That's right. And it's all building towards that. And you know as a fan that it is building towards that, because maybe you cheated and looked at the episode titles. Maybe they dropped them all at once.
Okay, Halloween night only lasted for like 2 episodes. I'd be like,
that's still 2 hours. Still 2 hours.
I know, it's still 2 hours.
It's 2 hours of just Halloween night. I mean,
right. Then when you get to 3 episodes, you're like, okay, we're doing good, but can we maybe get another one out of there?
But imagine 5 episodes of one night. That's pretty epic. That's pretty epic.
Murder and mayhem.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes. Imagine that. And just seeing them come together as a broken family. And I mean, a lot of the similar themes that you do get in David Gordon Green's trilogy, trauma, abandonment, resentment.
A lot of it is still in this.
Of course, because broken families and we're all complicated. Families are complicated. Relationships are complicated. Dynamics are complicated. People are complicated. And that's why so many filmmakers and writers lean into those things, because they're real world sort of stuff. Now, the trick is you don't want to completely remove the DNA of Halloween. That's where fans get a little persnickety and get get, because all of a sudden it feels more like a soap opera, Young and the Restless, drama than it does Friday the 13th or Halloween. That's the trick. You don't want to remove the DNA completely, but you can add more meat on the bone that complements the horror and the atmosphere and the music, so you can become attached and more invested emotionally, rather it just being this, we've been here and done that. That's the trick. That's the line. It's not easy to do, but it can be done. They have done it before in the past with certain franchises and films, and I don't see why they can't do it with Halloween. And it would be really cool. It would have been really cool to see.
What you just said, that will hinder the success of Friday the 13th. Crystal Lake. If they keep to the DNA of who Mrs. Voorhees is, like, don't build up to her becoming like that. Like, it's pretty much the jump.
Yeah.
She's fucking batshit crazy. I think that's where it could stand a chance to be successful.
Yeah. Well, I think
if you change the DNA too much and you kind of slow burn it.
From what I know, because I recently read the synopsis, I think I don't know whether she's batshit crazy from the very beginning, but there may be some sense, a little bit of something there perhaps, but it's the death of Jason that puts her over the edge, right? I mean, that's essentially, and that's what it was in the original film.
And I don't want that to be like 5 episodes in, right?
Yeah,
like I want to see Mrs. Voorhees, right, exactly. And now if we're talking like this is an 8-episode, series, which is typical of shows nowadays like this, then like what? You're going to give me 3 episodes of, so we're going to get 5 episodes of Mrs. Voorhees, playing slap the tickle with some dude in
I think
town.
So. No, you're going to get 5.
Then,
you're getting 5 seasons without Mrs. Voorhees, and then she
shows up.
Then she's 5 seasons. Fans would lose it. I would love to watch that. Watch all the fandom and just revel in their hatred.
I can't wait to see the fandom on this, because I know it's going to be very split. I know that.
It's going to be interesting.
I'm holding out for it to be good. I want to enjoy it. Right. I don't want it to be bad.
Yeah.
But,
I hope so.
Without the brand, I mean, let's face it. The hockey mask is the brand. I get that. So it's a huge gamble, but it's a gamble I'm willing to give a chance to.
100%. Because I tell you right now, if it's really good, the stories are really good, or the story is really good, because there's a through line. It's not episodic or anything, I don't think. So if the story is really good, the characters are really good, Mrs. Voorhees is great. Like, if it's really good, fans aren't going to give a shit, because they're going to be emotionally invested in the story. Yep. And that's what we're talking about here as a series, a Halloween 18, sequel to Halloween 4. If the story is really good, you've already got Danielle Harris coming back, Rachel Carruthers coming back, Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. If the story is really good, everything's properly motivated, it makes sense, there's tender love and care into it, and you take the mood and atmosphere from the David Gordon Green trilogy, you take the mask from the David Gordon Green trilogy, you take James Jude Courtney from the David Gordon Green trilogy, you take John Carpenter's music, John Carpenter, Daniel Davies, and Cody Carpenter. You got to give credit where credit is due. You take their music and put it into the series. Hey, okay. Like, hang on a sec here. I mean, there might be something going on. You can't take everything, of course, like peanut butter on my penis, but you can take a lot of it. So, but I think it's cool. But folks, listen.
Of lines that I never imagined would be in a Halloween movie, that is certainly one of them.
That's certainly one of them. Folks, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section. Let Tony and I know your thoughts on everything we've had to say here today, your ideas about a direct sequel, a Halloween 18 style sequel. It could be a movie. If you want to do a movie, let us know. But if you want to piggyback on everything we've said here and sort of take over and give us your ideas down below, let us know. Again, no other Halloween movies exist. It's just Halloween 4, and then 30 years later to 2018. I think that would have been really interesting, fascinating indeed. Let's jump over to the...
This is interesting here. Dave Deathray says, for the Crystal Lake series, Linda, who's playing Mrs. Voorhees, is listed for 6 episodes, The kid who's playing is listed for 4 as young Jason, and then Zachary Branch is listed for 3 as adult Jason.
And where is that listed? Is that, have they released the episodes?
IMDb.
IMDb. Okay. I would take that with a grain of salt because not every, it's very common on IMDb for people to be in every episode, but only listed for several episodes. That's very common. I'm not saying that is the case here, but it's very common to, when you look at sitcoms or television series or animation, you know, I've had that with my own IMDb page where there's sometimes it'll list me as being in a series for, 8 episodes. And I'm like, I was in all like 40. I don't know why. So, sometimes I got to get my agent to go in or I go in and try to update it. So just be mindful of that maybe she is only in 6 out of the 8, but she might be in all 8. They just, whoever's doing the adding just hasn't added the other 2. So it's just something to keep in mind because it's IMDb and it's fan updated and anybody can update it and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. Maybe it is true. But I have looked at shows in the past where I've seen characters, whether it's, again, sitcoms, dramas, whatever, and it'll say 3 episodes, but damn well they've been in in every one, right? So that can happen. Yeah, that can happen. Super chat from Josh McKenna says, but Dave, I received my Billy Blu-ray in the mail this week. Amazing. Yes, people are starting to receive them. If you haven't received your It's Me Billy Chapter 2 or your Double Blues yet, it is coming. Awesome. And that's evidence of it right there. Ethan LeBlanc just becomes a member or a returning member. Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate that. Mike Mack sends in $4.99 and says, love how you guys would deal with the aftermath of 4, better than H2O. They never found his body. I don't think saying that, I think just saying they never found his body, I don't think was the right move. I think you have to sort of do what Halloween 18 did, which was he was captured, right? You know what I mean? And he was put, and because it just, I don't know, it makes sense because he's human, but there's something, but the series that Tony and I are talking about lean heavily into, but there's something strange here. He's recovering faster than he should, or his wounds, hang on a sec, how many times was he shot? This doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? You never give concrete logical explanations for it because you don't want to introduce logic into the myth. And you don't
spend too much time on it either.
Correct. You don't want, exactly, Tony. You don't want to introduce logic where there needs to be ambiguity, mostly mystery, mystique. You want Michael Myers to remain mythic, but you want to see the real human, real world characters perplexed by these situations and discussing these situations because that helps ground the film or the story or the series in reality for the audience, because the audience is no doubt going, well, how the fuck can he? And if you see the doctors and the police officers and the psychiatrists, whatever, discussing those things on the same level and asking the same questions that you're asking as an audience, then that helps the believability factor feel a bit more acceptable. Do you know what I mean? But you never want to give concrete logical answers at all. And so, but I think him being captured again and put away, I think is just probably the right move to do in this situation as well. Cody Snyder, what's up, Duderinos? What's going on, Cody? Hope you're doing well. Brandon Collins, did I mention this already? I'm not sure. Sends in a member chat. Thank you, Brandon. One of our great mods says, Michael escapes en route to a new prison a couple of months before Halloween because budget cuts forced the closure of Smith's Grove, impending doom. Ooh, that's interesting. That's not bad. That's justified. And then Zigo R Skate 45 says the peanut butter comment still drives me nuts. It's true.
It drives all of us nuts.
It drives all of us nuts. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I hate to say it, but I just unless my girlfriend asks me to watch it, I don't think I can ever, I have zero desire to watch any of the new movies.
The new, what
movies? I could sit down. The new Halloween, the new 3 Halloween movies.
Oh yeah.
To go back and rewatch it. I can catch H2O and watch it. I can catch Rob Zombie's first Halloween and watch it.
Yeah.
And if I happen to be flipping through and see 6 is on, I'll watch it. Which usually during the month of October, I'll catch it at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with the new movies, I just zero. There's so many things that like could have gone so much better to want to bring me back to watch it. But like I've said this many times, I'm very content with the first 4 films, really.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know. I buy Halloween for the Halloween season every October with those 4 movies.
Yeah. I think, you know, I know people talk about, 4, 5, and 6 being the Thorn trilogy. And I understand why people say that, obviously. But it's funny, too, because in Halloween 4, there's no indication, mention, or even hint that there was going to be anything Thorn related at all. I mean, that's all Halloween 5's doing. But that said, I agree. When I watch the Halloween films, obviously the original is my favorite horror movie of all time. I, consider myself a purist and really appreciate the single standalone Halloween film as a one and done. But obviously I am a fan of Halloween 2. It's still my favorite sequel. I think it feels the most like the original, obviously.
And I got you warming up to Season of the Witch. You're not quite at my level with it, but I think you're liking it more and more.
I like it. I've never hated it. Right. I've never hated it. But I don't like it as much as some people do. But yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. And then I do like 4. Really I do like 4. 4 has grown on me more over the years, actually. 4 has more over the years. But I do like 4. And funny enough, the crazy thing is, and I might be an outlier here. Now, let me preface this by saying, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think it could have been a lot better. I think it could have been. It absolutely could have been a lot better. And certainly when you see all the people who do the memes and the AI videos where they superimpose the original mask in that film, it brings the movie up by 1,000, feet. But I have to admit, the 4 mask has grown on me. And it's the only mask, this is the weird part, it's the only mask that has really kind of done that. Because the 5 mask has never really grown on me at all. Halloween 6's mask, which I know is a fan favorite, hasn't really grown on me. The 943 masks in Halloween H2O, never grown on me. Halloween Resurrection mask hasn't grown on me.
CGI face in H2O.
Which I never quite listen, I don't watch H2O on a regular basis.
Like, talk about lazy filmmaking. Really? You couldn't just throw a mask on?
But it's not just that. I don't understand why, if it was me, because it looks so bad. Look, as a director, you would want the shot. I want to see the character looking at Michael. I want to see Michael Myers. We see him turn around, and then we see his reaction, right? We're getting a action reaction is what we call it. And so we have the action of the character turning around. We see just a split second of Michael in the frame, but then it cuts to the character going like this. This is my memory of it. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I haven't seen it in a while. And then we cut to, I think, his eyeball, the kid's eyeball, and you see kind of the reflection of Michael in the eyeball. I think that's that scene. And then we cut to Michael, the CGI mask of Michael kind of going like this, whatever. I would have cut around it. I know that ideally you would want that shot of him, but it looks so bad. And here's the thing, if you're young and you were too young in 1998, or maybe you weren't born yet, it looked like dog shit in 98 too. It's not like this is CGI that just hasn't aged well. Okay, no, it looked like ass in 1998.
If you're a Halloween fan watching H2O for the first time, like myself, and I mean, granted, it was more the experience was fun for me going with my friends from high school to see Halloween H2O. But as I'm watching this movie, I'm catching on to the fact, wait a second, why are the masks keep changing?
Yeah,
I got that.
You caught that on the first watch?
Well, it's so obvious in the freaking when the opening scene there when he's going into the nurse's house.
Oh, that's the 6 mask. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the 6 mask that's in that scene. It's the H2O mask. And then there's like another mask that they use in there. There's literally like 3 or 4 masks. And it's so blatantly, if you watch that scene again, it is so blatantly obvious that I'm watching this, I'm like, why does the mask keep changing?
Yeah,
and then,
interesting.
Yes, when you see the scene. And then on top of which, like his hair is all crazy and wacky when he's walking up to where Josh Hart and his girlfriend Michelle Williams are behind the gate, and then Laurie lets him in, and then he shows up to the window there, and his hair's like all perfectly slicked back or some shit.
Yes.
Wasn't that like, it was like just like totally like it was a mess, and then it was like slicked back, or one or the other. It was slicked back, and then it was a mess.
Something like that, and the eye holes and everything, and the whole.
Yeah. So.
It's no.
It's just like but I caught on to that really. I didn't catch on to the fact that it was the 6th mask. I caught on to the fact like the mask kept changing as I was watching the movie. I didn't know. I thought like as I was watching it, I'm like, at first I thought I was tripping. Like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And then obviously now we know. Yeah. But no, I didn't know. I didn't know on first watch that was the H2O, the Halloween 6 mask. I knew on first watch that that the masks weren't matching up, that they were different throughout the film.
Yeah, I didn't notice that on first watch, but I did notice it on the second watch. I will say
with regards to 4's mask, what I love about 4, I mean, besides the sentiment, it was the first Halloween movie that I ever watched. And it's what drew me into the series, which is it's my favorite. Yeah. It got me hooked into it. I spent more time as a kid watching that movie than any other movie. Yeah. I always felt when it came to the 4 mask is that if you're keeping the continuity the same, right? 2 happens, that mask is toast. So the odds of him finding the exact same mask that he had in 1978 is going to be slim to none. So to me, I always felt like it was the closest looking mask that he was drawn to what he was wearing in 78.
I agree. Yeah, no, it makes logical sense. I've never,
maybe added some shading.
Yeah, look, I think you could also have, I don't think anybody would have complained if another, mask exactly like the original was in the store, because it's never justified of what this mask is. We know in reality it's a Captain Kirk mask, the eyebrows taken off, there's spray painted. Of course, yeah, we know the real story behind it. But in the original Halloween, it's just some mask. And so had they actually done that again and used another, and by the way, I think it is a Kirk, if I'm not mistaken. I think it actually is a Kirk. Brandon can let me know, or somebody could, in 4. I believe it is. I don't think it's not. Now, I think it is a Kirk.
We've said this before, and I think we have a video on this that we did a whole episode on. I always felt like you don't need the mask. The eye holes from the bandage is creepy enough.
Oh, agreed.
I think we did a show on that.
We might have. I'll have to double check.
That look. Yeah, that look alone of Michael bandage, right? And as the movie progressed, the bandage is getting dirty and
bloody and
bloody and stuff like that. Like that to me would have been 1,000 times better than just with the mask that we got.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, Brandon says it's an original Dom Post. That's what I thought. Now, you could have, made the eye holes a little more almond, made the eyebrows white. Like, you could have made it look a little more like how Tommy Lee Wallace made it look in the original. And I don't think anybody would have complained, right? Nobody would have said, well, that doesn't make any sense because 10 years. We're saying that now, obviously, because it doesn't look like the original, so we're justifying it that way, which makes total sense as well. But the 4 mask has always, it's not great. It's not like I love it, but it's the only mask that has grown on me. And I do like 4.
In certain lighting conditions, I will say it does look really good. Like, for example, when he's standing in the doorway with little Jamie he's looking down and he's got that backlight in front of him.
Oh, yeah. And he goes like this. Yeah. During the dream sequence.
Yeah. And it's a very soft uplight on him. Yeah. It's borderline silhouette, but you see the shape of his body. Yeah. And you just faintly see the mask. It looks great in that shot.
It
That
does.
is a great shot of that mask.
Well, and you know what? Even when he sits up on the
you got surfer blonde hair Michael Myers that apparently no one caught.
Yeah, well, I don't buy that for one bit.
In the school, remember?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I remember it.
And he's got like blonde hair, and like you're just like,
yep.
No one on production that day caught on to the fact that he's not wearing the proper mask.
It's insane.
Like, but how does that happen?
But there's another place where it looks great, and Michael's not wearing it, and it's not in the store. It's probably not the same mask, but it's that scene where Loomis and Meeker run out to the car. I think they put Jamie in the car, and Meeker's like, Loomis, he says, Loomis, look. And you start to see just these kids, right? These teenagers. Yeah. Oh, there's Michael. There's Michael over there. There's one shot of Michael standing like beside the house in the distance.
It looks like the original.
It does. Well, it's a Don Post. It's a Kirk mask. But again, yes. Maybe that whoever that was, maybe the face shape was a bit different. You know, maybe they did something with the hair. But it's also from a distance. So and you're looking, and it's 35 millimeter film, and you're looking at a distance, and the lighting, and a bit of the fog, and so you're obscuring a lot of the details. So it looks really great, right? It looks, again, I've said this 1,000 times. The original Michael Myers mask from 1978 looks the way it does, and I'm not saying it's great. What they did was great. But all the Michael Myers masks, all the independent masks that you buy today, all the cosplayers that you see at conventions today that are dressed up as Michael Myers, and I don't mean with Trick or Treat Studios masks, not that there's anything wrong with them. They're great if you're on a budget, but for those that... those that spend like the $400, the $500 on these indie masks, whatever, I have several, you know, you've had some in the past, you know, they're spectacular, right? But the independent artists, the artists shade the masks. They do shading, they weather it to make it look how Dean Cundy lit the mask. So the actual Tommy Lee Wallace, Nick Castle, Michael Myers mask, if you were just to see it out in the daytime, it wouldn't look anything like that. No, because it's how Dean Cundy, his gaffer, the lighting team, how they lit the mask, right? The low key lighting, the split lighting, and all that. And you can take a pretty plain looking, maybe even borderline shitty mask, but if you know how to light it, if you know how to present it, it can look pretty good. You know what I mean? So it's ironic that all the artists are now shading and weathering and all that kind of stuff to make it look like how it does in the shadows, right? But if you just see Nick Castle, and there's BTS shots of him just holding the mask, there's no weathering on it. There's no shading on it.
No, there's nothing.
It's just spray painted white. How you see...
And even when he's outside,
right?
When you see him outside, you don't see any of that.
No, none of that.
When he's standing by the, when he's standing behind the car, when he's standing, the reason why we don't see the details is because it's at a distance.
Exactly.
You don't see the details of the mask.
Right. So your mind fills those details. So it looks creepier. It's like what is that? That's so creepy. That's so weird. Right. And so anyway, back to Halloween 4. So again, you know, seeing that mask on that guy by the house in the distance, you know, again, it's 35 millimeter film. There's some grain, you know, it's dark. There's some split. It's at night. It looks fucking spectacular. You know what I mean? Even though it's not the exact same mask from 1978. And so, yeah, no, it's so the Halloween 4 mask, again, Halloween 1's my favorite, of course, but the 4 mask has grown on me in ways that the Halloween 5 mask never has.
My favorite.
Yeah, well,
as a kid, it was my favorite, you know, mask in the series. I always wanted to find one. Of course, you and I did not have the luxury that everybody has today. We were stuck with, you know, we've talked about our first Michael Myers masks that we had as kids. That looked absolutely, I mean, hey, look, for the 80s and 90s, man, they were epic. For the 80s and 90s, for what we could find in the store.
Yes.
Time,
well, and
we could find, and I made the best out of it.
Yeah, so did I. And do you remember that for legal reasons they couldn't call it a Michael Myers mask? It was just called the mask.
What it was called.
It was called the mask, something like that.
But we knew.
Oh, of course. And everybody knew what it was supposed to be. I remember, I don't know if it's still there. Shout out to anybody who lives in Ottawa, Canada. That's where I grew up. I remember this is 1994, 3, 4, somewhere around there. This is a long time ago, kids. And I remember walking into, there was a costume shop on Merivale Boulevard in Nepean, which is well, now it's all part of Ottawa, but it was a separate city at that time, which is where I lived. And Merivale Boulevard, and I walked into Malabar's costume shop, and there it was, The Mask, sitting on a shelf at the top. And Tony, I thought it looked exactly like Nick Castle in the original Halloween. I was like, oh my, because we had nothing else to compare it to. Like, we didn't have.
Nothing. We were kids.
Yes.
Like, our brains were not. To us, that was like finding the Holy Grail. Because now we could dress up as the guy we wanted to dress up for as Halloween.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And I told you my route.
I've seen your photos.
Right. I didn't have overalls. I wore a black button-down dress shirt with black pants and black shoes because I didn't have overalls.
Same. That was the first time.
I'm a kid. Right. I'm a kid, so I don't have access to all, the stuff that we have today, the online, look for overalls and stuff. Like, I had to go to the store, and if I couldn't find them in the store, I had to improvise.
That's
and
it.
Look, for the time, it was, of all the years that I've dressed up for the mask, and I essentially, I don't really dress up anymore. I just throw on a Michael Myers t-shirt for Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween day. But up until the very end, when I basically had been Michael Myers, or dressing as Michael Myers for Halloween since 6th grade, which was the first year that 5th grade, because my uncle gave me his mask. That was the first time I got it. And then I got my own version of it in 6th grade. And those years of wearing that in junior high were probably some of the best memories of dressing up as Michael, because we would go out trick-or-treating with groups of friends, and I would stand in the bushes, just standing there staring at everyone, freaking everybody out and stuff. It was just fun.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, now in hindsight, when you look at it through the eyes of me in 2026, because of everything we have now, including the trick-or-treat studio masks, okay, yeah, I get it. It's like, but it doesn't give with the new mask. I still have one of those masks that I bought. I still have my Roy Burns mask. I still have one of the Jason masks, and I have
you had quite a bit. You had quite a bit.
Yeah, I have a couple of them. They're just stored away right now.
Right.
Look, I love the fact that I have something that looks as close to the original film, but it does not give me the same. There you go. The same feel as that mask.
Me and
that mask instantly that's the closest to a time machine I can get, because my mind immediately goes back to being a kid wearing that thing and the fun I had with it. Yeah. Not saying I didn't have fun with the new in having the new mask. It's just not the same feeling.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And of course, if you're our age, you had to, we've talked about this, you had to contest with, you're Jason. It's like, no, I'm Michael Myers, but no.
Oh, yes. Every time you go to the door, that is 100% true. Oh, look at Jason. You're like, what the fuck?
No, I'm not Jason. I'm not. But no, it was
Candy. I'm not Jason.
No, but to circle back to your point about the 3 films there, 1, 2, and 4. Look, when I watch, it's funny. I find that I don't really, people ask me, what Halloween movies do you watch every Halloween? I'm like, I don't really watch any, because I do something here on the channel, and whether it's with you or whether I do a watch along for members or whether I do a watch along for everybody, and I've already, that's how I watch them now. And so I haven't actually sat down, popped in Halloween and watched it just on my own, probably in about, 6 or 7 years. I know the movie so well that I don't need to do that. But I find that I end up watching it every year anyway, because it's usually I'm either on somebody else's channel or this channel and we're doing a watch along or, whatever the case is. But I find that with the Halloween series, if I'm going to watch Halloween movies, it's 1, 2, and 4. And I that's it. Like I maybe I'll pop in if I have gone to 5 and 6 just to kind of finish it off. But I think 4 is, I think 4, had they actually ended at 4, today it would have been one of the greatest endings in all of horror. And I don't mean that in any hyperbolic sense. I think it is an amazing ending.
Because of the full circle moment.
100%. We've talked about it. I've talked about it. You have, so 1, 2, and 4 give you 3 different endings. 1 gives you the original intention of the ending, which is the full circle thematic moment of you can't kill the boogeyman. And Laurie doesn't believe in the boogeyman. Tommy, there's no such thing. And then by the end of the movie, she's like, it was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. And she has a full arc and everything. And the reason why he's gone is not just.
She says, was it the boogeyman?
I know.
It was.
I know.
Didn't you do a video on that to clarify?
I've done 2 videos on it and made social media posts on it. People still say I'm wrong. And I'm like, okay, knock yourself out. So, but the subtitles, I don't care what the subtitles say. It was,
Never trust the subtitles.
No.
Never trust the subtitles.
Jamie Lee Curtis has confirmed that it was the boogeyman. And I've also seen the original shooting script of like an actual script that
doesn't matter, Dave. She doesn't have to say the word it. She just said was.
Well, it's online as well, but I've actually had the physical script in my hand, and it says it was the boogeyman, which makes sense because she's like, oh my God, it was the boogeyman, and he's like, as a matter of fact, it was. She's come to the realization, and it makes more sense for her character because she doesn't need to ask the question anymore. That doesn't make any sense. Right. She now knows. That's the arc. That's the completion of the arc. She didn't believe.
Loomis essentially is agreeing with her, like
exactly.
Yeah, it was.
As a matter of fact, it was. So, anyways, there's that ending, right, where he's gone, not to set up a sequel, but just to reinforce that. So you could watch just that one movie and you get everything you need from it.
Yeah, because even going back to how you've confirmed the script and everything. Loomis, like if she hypothetically saying, let's go with what people think she says, was it the boogeyman? His true response was, as a matter of fact, was. It almost sounds pompous. Like it's like such a pompous response.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, whereas she's saying it was the boogeyman, and his response is like, yeah, as a matter of fact, it was.
Oh yeah, no, look,
that makes more sense.
Yes, and look, Chester says in Halloween 2, she says, was it the boogeyman? She doesn't say that. It's the same piece of footage. She says the same thing. It sounds like this is what it sounds like. Was the boogeyman?
In Halloween 2?
In Halloween 2, he's saying that she says, was it the boogeyman? But it's the same, it's not. It's the same thing. In both movies.
You're talking about the opening.
The opening. Yeah, that's right. In both movies, she goes, was the boogeyman? That's what she does. And so, as Brandon once said a long time ago, really you have to imagine it as it was the boogeyman. What the word it gets lost in her acting. It gets lost in her performance. Jamie Lee Curtis, about 10 years or so ago at a convention that Sean Clark was running. It might have been the one where she actually was there.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, she actually says, no, I said it was the boogeyman. She said, I thought everybody knew that. Obviously not being connected to horror and the nuances and the idiosyncrasies of fandom, she's probably unaware that there's this huge debate about what she says. But she says, no, I said it was the boogeyman. Because obviously as an actor, she'd go, well, no, I'm like, oh my God, it was. And so I know it's hard for some fans to, no, it's not. She says this. She doesn't say that. It gets lost in the performance. It's just, it was the boogeyman. Like, it was, or no, she doesn't even say it. She goes, was the boogeyman. That's what she says.
Right.
Was the boogeyman, right? The it gets lost in the performance.
It gets lost under the crying.
It gets lost under the crying. It's in the script. She's confirmed it. I don't care what the fucking subtitles say. I don't care. Okay. And listen, I used to think it was weird too. I used to be like, well, that doesn't, That doesn't mean, I mean, I've heard some people say, I think she says, was that the boogeyman? I'm like, there's no that even in there. You know, I don't think people are making up shit
now.
now.
We're just throwing words in.
No, but it's in the script. I've seen the script. Mickey Yablans gave me one of the shooting scripts. I looked at it. It was one of the first things I looked at. And there it is. It was the boogeyman. And it's on the script online. You can type in Halloween script. You can download a PDF of it. It's there as well. And so that's what it actually is. And of course, again, from a story perspective, thematically, it makes sense because she doesn't need to ask the question. She already knows. And that's from a writing perspective. That's why it makes more sense. Her asking the question. Exactly. She knows. She's like, fuck, it was the boogeyman. Translation, Tommy was right. Anyway, so you can watch the movie with that ending, or you can watch Halloween 2 with more of the happier ending, right? So it comes full circle. Yeah, but good wins, right? Good wins. Or you can go one step further to Halloween 4 and have more of the darker ending, but more true thematically, more true to the darker themes and the full circle of evil never dies. You can't kill the boogeyman.
Well, yeah, because
and it's a full circle moment.
When you think about how the movie opens, it opens with a tragedy, and so you end with a tragedy. Like that to me is just like, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yes.
Opens up dark. It starts off dark. He kills his sister, and he's a child.
Yeah.
And it's that loss of innocence. And now here we are again.
Yeah.
Loss of innocence. It ends dark, and damn.
I'm glad you said loss of innocence. That is fantastic because it's true. And listen, the ending of 4 and the ending of Halloween 1 reinforce the same things. It's just that 4 reinforces it in a different way, right? They reinforce in Michael's gone, but oh my God, it's starting again. That's why Loomis is losing his mind. No, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, as a fan, and I only speak for myself, of course, you know, everybody's different in their fandom, but for me, I really appreciate that. When you get to 5 and 6, and now we're just like, what the fuck are we doing? You know, for me, I really like, and if they had ended Halloween just on that note, whoa. Imagine there was no 5 or 6 or H2O, Resurrection, Rob Zombies. And just the final Halloween was just that little girl standing at the top of the stairs.
It would be a solid franchise. It'd be a solid, you know.
But what a powerful ending
with the one-off film. You know, that's how people would look at it.
Yeah, and what a powerful ending either. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I only watch those first 4. In fact, someone said here too. I think it was Jack Jackson 100 said, and I do the same thing in October. I don't always watch the Halloween films like I'm glued to the television. Sometimes I just throw them on, just like have them on like as background, you know, especially as I get closer to Halloween or if it's on Halloween day. I like having it on. Yeah,
you know,
like in the background, just kind of like you're doing work and
Right, exactly. There, you know, I like having the vibe of it. But yeah, like I've watched those movies so many times, like it's as you get older, it's hard to like kind of get into like watching them unless you're watching like me watching it with Christina for the first time. So now I'm watching it through her eyes and seeing her reaction to everything for the first time. Like, you know, like the ending of 4 and me knowing what's coming. And I'm more focused in like, how is she going to react to what she's about to see?
Exactly.
You know? That's the coolness of passing on to new people and letting and seeing how they react to
and I think parents share that with their kids too. You know, like the parents have seen it so many times and they can live vicariously through their kids. Bobby says here, it's weird in Halloween 2 that Laurie never discovers or reacts to Michael being her brother. We should have seen that reaction for her character arc. Well, what's interesting, Bobby, I think I've talked about this before. We never see her find out. And so I know she has the dream where it's hinted that she was adopted and this whole thing, but that's a dream and that's playing into her subconscious. And when she wakes up from the dream, there's no indication that she remembers the dream or that she's, you know, what the dream indicates.
Right, she kind of just wakes up, she looks around and then she falls back asleep.
Right.
Remember, that's how the scene goes.
Right. What the dream indicates from a storytelling perspective, in my mind, what the dream is indicating to the audience is that there is this knowledge within her subconscious. And that's what's interesting. So that tells me as an audience member that she can discover this. She knows this. It might be something she's repressed or suppressed or whatever the case is, but there's a lot of memories with her foster mother and her parents. There's things there, right? There's something, this is in her, which is why she's dreaming about it.
And the tragic events of what happened Halloween night is triggering this.
Correct.
Subconscious.
Correct. And the thing is too, is that at the end, she does say, Michael, before Dick Warlock stops and she shoots him in the eyes. But she says that not because she realizes that this is my brother, but because Jimmy tells her that Michael Myers is the one fucking around and the one that attacked her. And so that's
the only reason why. I've heard people say that's how he acknowledges the sibling. I'm like, no, Jimmy's the one who told her who was doing the attacking.
Yes.
And she says to him, that little boy, the one who killed his sister?
Exactly.
Right? Isn't that the line that?
Yes, 100%.
So she's not even making, like, that should be a dead giveaway that she's not making the connection yet.
No.
That's her brother. Because she says to Jimmy, the little boy, the one who killed his sister, not the little boy, the one who killed my sister.
Correct. Which is why, so we would presume that when she's in the back of the ambulance and Mr. Sandman plays and she's taken off to the next town or whatever the case is, her foster parents would meet her. I mean, eventually she's going to find all this out. Okay, fine. We don't need to see that. We'll presume that. But that's also why, because you actually never see in the film the character of Laurie Strode find out that she is Michael's sibling, it's also why I understand why John Carpenter wrote it, because he felt he needed something to justify their doing a sequel and to have a bit of a hook in there where it doesn't feel like you're just doing the same thing over again. That's why he did that. But the ironic part is and I've talked about this and we've talked about this, that you actually don't even need it in there. You can remove, because all you do.
So good, you don't need it.
All you do, and this is all you do, you change the dream that Laurie has to something else. And that something else can be as simple as the events that just happened. So she's dreaming about being attacked in the closet, right? That makes sense.
Busting through the closet.
Busting through the closet, whatever, is perfect. So you change that to that. Then at the end, when Marion says, that girl, that Strode girl, that's Michael Myers' sister. She was adopted 2 years before, blah, 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 blah. Whatever that is, you change that. I don't know what you change it to, but you rework that dialogue to something else, and you rework the motivation for the marshal to turn the car around, for them to go back to the hospital, right? I'm not saying, but you rework that to figure out a different motivation for them to go back. But as long as you do that and you change the dream sequence, nothing else in the film can change. Now you can say, well, why is he going after her? Well, like I said in my recent video talking about how there's no motive and motivation and the difference between motive and motivation, all that kind of stuff. Well, it's very simple. You might even be able to hint at it through a bit of dialogue, but that she's the one that got away. And so his motive.
I was about to say, if you watch any serial killer documentary, they get fixated. Sometimes they get fixated on a type, and if they get fixated on an individual, they've become their prey. So for me, that's Michael's motive, right? He locked in on Laurie. And that became his goal.
Right.
That was it. That's all. Like that. Anything that got in his way, you're fucked.
Right. And in my motive video, where I said there is no motive, I was explaining that I think colloquially, casually, people tend to use the word motive to mean any reason for something. And I'm using it in more of the sense of an interpersonal motive, right? There's a difference between motive and motivation. And so there is no motive in the original Halloween. John Carpenter introduced a motive in part 2, which is the brother-sister arc. Oh, that's why he's chasing her, because she's his sister. Now he's introduced a motive. But you can remove that and keep motivation instead from a predatory primal instinct level of she's the one that got away, like a cat who's chasing its prey and the prey gets away. The cat just the cat will more often than not continue to go after it, to continue to hunt it, to chase it. Right. He's enamored with this girl that got away. Nobody else got away. He's enamored with it, right? You can remove the motive, but keep the motivation, which is the primal instinctual, more to, sort of predatory, sort of nature, and which nothing else.
Essentially what David Gordon Green was trying to do with 18, right?
Correct.
Because they threw away the brother sister storyline, and it became more about Michael's obsession.
Correct.
And look, if you watch any serial killer documentary, that is a very, very common personality trait of a serial killer.
Yeah. No,
they become a victim.
It is. And I think a lot of the times when I do that motivation video, I've done them a couple of times. I haven't done them in many, many years, but I did one last week, I think it was. And again, I think, and fair enough, I totally understand. Most people, I think, tend to, because they say, well, no, Dave, there is motive in the original Halloween because Laurie walked up onto the steps. That's his motive. It's like, that's not the motive that's yes, for all intents and purposes, you can look at that as motive, but I'm talking about there's no, and Loomis says it, there's no rhyme or reason or conscience or understanding and even the most rudimentary sense of good or evil or right or wrong. He's basically saying there is no fucking reason. I can't figure out what's going on. I'm talking about an interpersonal, more something that you would explain in court, which is what's the motive for going after Laurie? He doesn't know Laurie. She doesn't owe him money. Nobody owes anything. He doesn't know them. And in the original film only, right? And so I agree that when she stepped up onto the porch and put the key under the mat, he saw her and suddenly became enamored with her. Maybe she reminded him of Judith. Maybe, who knows? But I'm speaking about it from a perspective of more of there's no interpersonal rhyme or reason. Dr. Loomis talks about this in that sense, and that's what makes it so frightening. But casually, people tend to use motive more casually.
Well, and what you're saying is true because when you think of a serial killer like Ted Bundy or Ed Kemper or any of these guys, or Jeffrey Dahmer. It's not like these people weren't around people all the time,
right?
But something inside of them, it almost becomes like Dahmer's case. It was very sexually driven. Obviously, same thing with Bundy. It was something inside of whatever that chemical imbalance of a serial killer draws them to that person, because in their everyday life, they're around a bunch of people, but they're not killing all of them.
Right.
But the ones they go after, something, and that's essentially what I feel Michael is for Laurie. It's just something, whatever that feeling is for him, he locked his eyes on her, and that was it.
Well, yeah, and again, I think the Loomis speech is more important than people realize. We glance over it so casually nowadays because we've heard it so many times. But, saying, there's no, hang on, let me see if I can just quickly bring this up. And I have a whole video on my channel.
Yeah, I think of the Night Stalker. That story still creeps me out to this day. He was just so random with it.
Right.
He could have gone into any house and that shit to people. He was so, you don't know why. Why did he choose that house? Why didn't he choose the next house? There's no reason for it. That's why he did what he did.
Loomis says, I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason. So in other words, that simply means that you can't reason with him. There's, you can't how you can't reason with your cat, or your dog, right? There's no reason, no conscience, no understanding, in even the most rudimentary sense, which basically he's saying there's no reason, no conscience, no understanding in even the simplest sense. He doesn't even understand, like it's, you know what I'm saying? In the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong, which means he may not know what he's doing is wrong. He may not know, I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, so you're trying the reason, blah, 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 and it goes on. The reason why I hone in on that important distinction is because Carpenter always described Michael as a force of nature, like the wind, right? And so that was Carpenter.
Supernatural-like.
Well, with supernatural elements, right? And he's on record years ago.
Supernatural-like, not supernatural-like.
Yeah, he's got some supernatural elements to him, but he's a force of nature, is like the wind. It's basically Carpenter painting a picture and basically saying, there is no reason. There is no conscience. There is no, in how we understand motive and reason and understanding, right? There's motivation, which is more instinctual, like a cat. The cat isn't, playing with the mouse, killing the mouse because the mouse owes the cat money, or the mouse looked at the cat wrong, or the mouse squeaked at the cat and told the cat to fuck off. That's not what's happening here. You know what I mean? And so even those that say, yeah, but if there was no motive, then he'd be killing everybody and all that. No, not necessarily. No, not at all.
That was my point that I was trying to make.
Not at all.
With regards to like guys like Ted Bundy and Ed Kemper or Jeffrey Dahmer. They're around people at their jobs. They're around people in their social life. They're not killing them, but it's like, for example, Unabomber. I'm clearly
Ted Kaczynski.
What I do on my spare time. Right. Now, Ted Kaczynski, he had motive. There was a reason for what he did.
Right.
It wasn't Charles Manson. Same thing. The Manson murders, even though I don't believe he committed any of the murders. I know he ordered the murders, although I think he may have done the second.
He's probably murdered somebody in his life, but yeah.
Probably, that we just don't know about. But I think the Bianco family or something, I think that's what their names were, the second night after the Tate murders.
Yep.
I think he was at that one because I think he told them he wants it done right or some shit or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is that Manson had motive. There was a reason for what he was doing. A civil riot, race war, all this stuff like that.
Helter Skelter.
Whereas Helter Skelter, all that stuff. So there's motive. With Michael falls into that Jeffrey Dahmer, that Ted Bundy, Ed Kemper, even Ed Gein, right? Like, why did these people do the things that they did? Why did the Night Stalker do what he did? Why did he pick this house but not this house? Like, you don't know. It was just, there was no motive to their madness. It just is.
It just is. And
Carpenter.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna say I agree, and that's what makes him so frightening, and that's why it worked so well, and that's part of the allure and the mystique and the mystery and the enigma that surrounds Michael. Jason, we know his motive. We know why he's doing what he's doing.
Revenge.
It's to avenge his mother's death. We know why Freddy is to avenge his own death, I guess, in some ways. Not every horror character's motive or motivations are unknown, but Michael's motive, it's not there. Again, casually, a lot of people just say motive to mean any desire to go do something, right? You know what I mean? And that's fine. But when I say Michael Myers doesn't have a motive, and I think when John Carpenter says there's no rhyme or reason, basically saying there's no reason, there's no motive, we're talking about it from a more interpersonal kind of sort of sense, that this is predatory, this is instinctual. Yes, right. It does, because it means everybody is, could be prey. That doesn't mean that he's killing everybody left and right. It's not necessarily that. Like a cat doesn't necessarily do that. Or
there's 100,000 people that probably, or more, that live in Haddonfield, and he's not wiping out the entire town.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean that there's clearly a motive. But anyways, we got
way off topic.
But it's fun though. It's fun to talk about this stuff. But listen, we've gone just over 2 hours. This was a good show. I don't think there's any other super chats. I think I've got them all. Sure? Yes. Yeah, no, not too many came in. Only 1, 2, 3. Only 3 came in and a couple of member chats as well. So that was good. Good stuff. This was a good show, man.
Yeah, this was fun.
This was a good show.
It was fun It's always fun to circle back to Halloween. I know someone in the chat room said, if we do this once a month, it's hard to do it once a month because when you talk about something so much, there's a freshness to it where when Dave and I come back to it after a break, where we can do a stream like this and talk about it for 2 hours. And keep in mind, Dave does this more than I do.
Yeah.
So like he's talking about the topic beforehand. It's always good to kind of, create some space. And then when you have because I'd rather have the quality of a good show versus okay, let's just throw up fucking something just to have viewers, right?
Well,
like,
and
I don't want it to do that. I want it to be a good show for you guys to where Dave and I are really enthused about the topic. And I don't know if that's a right way of saying that.
No, exactly.
Enthused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about it and giving you guys, our best rather than like, okay, we're talking about Halloween again for the
exactly
millionth time.
Yeah, exactly. And what was I going to say? I had a brain fart. What was I going to say now? I forget.
We're just talking about how someone said they wish we could do it once a month.
Yeah, no, and there's nothing really Halloween like new to talk about. If there was, obviously, then that would be easier. But I do have a new Halloween video coming soon to the channel. It's my members get a first crack at it. So if you want to, check that out, you can. You have to become a member in order to be able to see it now. But it will be released in the coming days, so you can wait if you want. Yeah, it's a fun one. It's an old school kind of fun one that I think people will enjoy. But yeah, no, look, I mean, when Halloween news comes, we'll be glad to talk about it. But sometimes it's fun to revisit and do these little things. And we both thought the topic today was a really good one. What if Halloween 18 was actually a sequel to 4?
Trust me, Dave and I have talked about other Halloween ideas that, we don't just we kind of just go back and forth. Well, what do you think about this? Well, what do you think about this? Well, how about if we do it like this? And that's where we usually end up at. So we come up with ideas. Like I said, it's more about the quality of content rather than just doing content for content's sake.
Right.
And whatnot. So that when we're talking about Halloween, we're articulate with our thought process. We've thought it out. We fleshed it out. I mean, truthfully, we just kind of once we know what we're going to talk about, we just pretty much wing it from that point on. We don't really structure it, which I like doing, anyways, just in life in general. I don't want too much of a structure. I like, okay, this is where we're going. All right, let's go.
Gotcha.
And yeah, there are a lot more what ifs, that Dave and I can tackle into. I think, especially as we see October approach with the Crystal Lake series, and now that once we did that, we can then go, well, now maybe this is what they could do with Halloween, right? Like if it's really good, that can give us ideas for more shows to talk about if Crystal Lake is successful on, and like you're figuring, like I said earlier in the dream, if Crystal Lake proves to be successful, we all know what's going to happen. The others are going to follow right behind. Probably, I bet you Elm Street would be next, and then maybe Halloween.
It's possible.
It all depends.
It's possible.
Right? That's usually what happens. If one is, it's like, oh, well, Friday the 13th worked. Well, why don't we just go over here and do this?
Right. Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and how they handle it. But listen, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. If you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let Tony and I know your thoughts on the main topic here tonight or anything here we had to say. But Tony and I are curious to know your thoughts below. Thank you, of course, to the moderators. Thank you to the super chats, the member chats. If you want to become a member here on the channel and consider it, just hit that join button. There's 2 tiers and you'll get some exclusive perks and exclusive live shows. And yeah, that's going to do it for us here on this episode. Tony, any last things you want to say?
I did drop a 3rd song today on Spotify, so I've got 3 tracks out right now on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Pandora, Amazon Music, and then iHeartRadio. I'm not sure how iHeartRadio works. I don't know how that is. just go to my YouTube channel, Anthony Michael Mix, and go to Spotify to listen to the 3 songs. Or if you follow me on Instagram, same thing. Go to my Spotify link is on there. I don't know how Pandora works or all that stuff. I just put the song on there. So that's it. Drop the 3rd one today.
Okay, cool. Head over there and check it out, folks. Alrighty, we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Later.